there is a lot of dishonesty in this community. And also, you said that you do some seminars around the world. So if I am interested in taking you here in Mexico City, I know because of the pandemic right now, it is a very difficult thing to do, but maybe in the near future, what styles or what kind of system could we have from you?
Well, I mean, I always suggest people hire other people. I always like whenever people are like, "Hey, man, can we bring you down for a seminar?" Like, I always try to suggest like someone better than me, you know, like because there's so many people better than me. If people are like, we were talking about like David Leduc earlier, you know, like if people want to like learn like Muay Thai or learn like Lethaway or kickboxing in general, why not talk to the best in the world? I'd be like, talk to that guy, you know? Or if people want to learn boxing, I would find a better boxer than me. So, or jiu-jitsu, I find a better jiu-jitsu guy than me. I'm mediocre at pretty much everything. There's only two things I'm really, really, really good at. And I can freely admit, because I feel confident in that statement. I'm really good at nunchucks, which is a ridiculous thing to be good at, but I am really good at that. And I'm very, very, very good at martial arts business consulting. So when it comes to making people's studios better, make more money, be more efficient, be safer, work a little better than they did the day before, that I do very well.
Well, man, that's a very important thing to do. I mean, that's one of the main things that we should have. We heard a lot of all kind of seminars, but not much about that kind of topic. So, well, maybe, you need to know that I only care more about the guy or the person more than the system, because you can be the best of what you're doing, but if you're a bad person, if you don't know how to treat people, or you just, I don't know, I'd rather, meet nice people and serious people and invite them, even though they are not like in the top 5, but if they are honest and if they know what to do and what to say, for me is better. However, that kind of topic is very interesting to me, and I'm pretty sure that here in Mexico, a lot of people would be very interested in hearing what you have to say. So maybe in the near future, I will invite you to talk about that specifically.
Yeah, man, why not? Help out some martial arts schools, man, because I know a lot of schools, unfortunately, they have a stigma about making money, and they think that making money is a bad thing, which is really dumb, because you opened a business. And so if you're opening a business that has your livelihood, you kind of have to make money, but you don't have to give up your ethics in order to make money. You don't have to do bad or evil sales tactics to make people sign up for you. But what you do have to do is you have to have some decent, basic, common business sense. And if you don't, you will eventually drown. No one will take your seminar if you're homeless. It's just the truth.
Thank you for saying that, because it is so true. Here in Mexico, like for example, there are so many instructors that they want to be considered like a holy, or I don't know what, but they're like, oh no, don't worry, I will just charge you this amount or for free, and that always make a problem to the other guys around, because they're like, oh man, I live by teaching martial arts, so if you are just giving everything by free, people won't even care much about it, because right now, I don't know in the States, but right now in Mexico, things have changed during the last 30 years. Most people that come to my school may last for 3 months, maybe a year, but in the past, they would like last for 5, 10 years, like it was more, it was different. And some people, even because of those people that doesn't I don't want to say they have to focus on money, because that's not what I'm saying at all. But because of that, guys, some students always come to me and they're like, hey, can I pay you next week? Can I pay you half right now? Or I didn't come the last class, so I won't pay you that class. And they're always trying to negotiate. And that is something that makes us look bad.
There's a rule to that. So like, what is it called? The 90-10 rule. It's been called a lot of different things, by the way, but the 90-10 rule is always what I've heard it as. But it's 10% of the people will cause 90% of your problems. And so like you'll have, let's say you have 100 students, and let's say 10 of those students, or even 1%, we'll even say just one of those students haggles, tries to negotiate with you. They do that because you allow it. The only reason that they do that is because you don't have a structure in place to say, hey, you're not allowed to do that. For instance, I don't know what kind of grocery stores you guys have out there, but usually there's a Walmart pretty much anywhere around here in the United States. But like, if you go to Walmart, you don't get to the checkout register and go, hey, I know that this apple is going to be 10 cents, but what if I pay you 5 cents now and 5 cents next time I come? It would never happen. And why don't people negotiate though? Have you noticed that? When they walk up to that cash register, they don't negotiate the price. They don't, because Walmart has a structure in place, a system in place to make you not question it. It's either you buy it or you don't. And that's how most businesses who are successful operate. It's you walk into the studio. This is a contract. Do you agree that you can pay me this amount of money every month in order for me to provide the service I'm providing? Yes, I do. All right, cool. Then they come back next month. Hey, man, I'm going to be a little late. That's cool, man. You can be late, but there's going to be a late fee. That's simple. Like you signed and read and negotiated everything. And then there'll be people out there who will be like, man, but people fall on hard times. Sure they do. But your hard time does not need to fall on me. Like, are we both supposed to go poor? Like, is that how this works? No, you made an agreement. And if you're an adult, when you sign a contract, you are aware of what the stipulations are on that contract. Don't sign it if you're not prepared. That's not the business owner's fault that you had a hard time. What happens is you made a poor decision, and then now you're giving that blame to your fucking business owner, and you're going to make it his fault that you can't make the payments that you agreed to. And that's a bullshit mentality. I will say this though, there are plenty of other ways as a business owner to where you can stay ethical and say, hey man, you know, we all fall on hard times. How about this? And you may have to work something out one time, but after that, like if it happens again, bye. Sorry, I can't work with you. Like, here you go. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about paying me. Don't worry about any of that. You have a great day. Because that will become toxic. Because what will happen is that person will have a conversation with another person in your studio. Hey man, you know, I had a hard time and luckily he worked with me and he gave me a discount, blah, blah, blah. Next thing you know, 3 people are asking for the same thing. You know, and it's not ruthless. What it is you having a good business sense to understand that just like any other business, good businesses do not haggle prices. You don't haggle prices. That's what people in a cart with a donkey and oranges do, right? That's not a great business model. Good business model is I set my price, you pay that price, and if you cannot pay that price, we'll have another idea or thought that we can do, but everything should already be written down and prepared. And then once people know that your prices don't change, they will stop asking you things like that. They won't ask you again. They won't come up to you and be like, hey, because they already know the answer. You know, it has nothing to do with them. It has nothing to do with you as a person. It has everything to do with them as an adult. Did they make an adult decision? Did they agree to an adult decision? Cool. Now do the adult thing and make your payments on time.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I will definitely show this video to so many people. Okay, also, I don't know if you have noticed that so many YouTube martial art channels, instead of being there to teach about a system or philosophy or to do a service as you do, they are only about themselves. Like, look how hard I kick, or look how good my technique is, or like that kind of videos. I really don't like those channels. But what is your opinion on those?
I mean, I think as long as they're labeled properly. So like if you have stunt performers who are doing stunt work, which is what you're saying, look at how good I am at this skill, and they label themselves that way, I don't see a problem with that, because those are the kind of people that wind up going on to movies and acting, you know, like a Tony Jaa or Scott Adkins or Michael Jai White. Like those are stunt performers. Are they martial artists? For sure, but they just don't focus on self-defense technique. That's not what they do.
Right.
Basically, like, I have a problem with people who call something self-defense when it's not. Like there's a woman online. She's got about 2 million followers. I think her name is Cynthia. Really famous online martial artist, but she's been lying and conning people for years. Like she's been editing her videos and telling people.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And so she's a huge con man. Like she's a con person because she's a woman, but like her and her instructor have been conning people for years, because in Indonesia, the culture is tenaga dalam. Tenaga dalam is their version of chi, or magical powers. And so in that culture, it's very ingrained that that is real when it's not, but it's sold as real. And so people are more susceptible to believing magic than in other parts of the world. And so because it's so ingrained in their culture, they've been able to lie to millions of people, and they just go with it because they believe in their heart that it really works. And it's been proven time and time and time again that she's editing her videos, and there's proof out there, but people don't want to believe that because she's so good at conning people that she has them brainwashed. And now she could, right now, with all the people who are going after her because she's lying, she could just double down, or she could just say, hey, it's all for stunt work, it's all for theatrics, it's just for movie and for show, it's not real, and no one would care. People would be like, oh, okay, well, at least you admitted it. All right, well, now I can watch it for what it is, as entertainment. The problem is she's not doing that. She's saying this is 100% real. These are real things that I can do. I swear I can really do these things, and she can't. And so a group of MMA fighters went to go confront her. And when they went to go confront her, they apparently, her and her team had already agreed that they were going to follow through with the 5 things that they wanted her to do, which was basically 5 stunts that she had already done on camera. They just wanted her to do it in front of them. They wanted to see it, right? To prove it, which I think was fair. And they didn't, sparring was like one of those things, but they didn't expect to spar with her. And they didn't expect her to say yes, but they did expect that since she agreed to those things, that when they showed up, that she would provide those things, and she didn't. Instead, they were met with a team of lawyers, her lawyers, and the lawyers were like, yeah, we don't agree to any of your stipulations. It was like, well, why did you agree before we got here? You know, kind of ridiculous. And
Right.
obviously she was aware that they were going to be there because she sent lawyers, you know? So it's not like she can even hide behind, oh, I didn't know. Bullshit. Of course you knew. How else would you know where to send your lawyers? And why were you there as well? So she's sitting in a car while her lawyers are out there talking to the MMA fighters. And then they didn't agree to absolutely any terms. But then the MMA fighters took the time to go around to one of the sites that she did, which was abandoned building, kind of like a parking lot. And it's got these concrete pillars. And one of her videos shows her kicking that concrete pillar on the edge of the concrete and breaking it with her shin. But her shin doesn't get bruised, and there's no real bleeding on her shin. And so they walked up and they looked, and you could clearly see that somebody had taken a hammer and hit the concrete edge with a hammer. And what they did was they just spliced the video together to make it look like she was kicking the pillar. And so that's why people get upset at her, is because there are little kids who are going to go out and try stuff like that and get hurt, because people with common sense, or people who at least are aware of what it feels like to kick things that are hard, would never kick the edge of a concrete pillar, because it's going to hurt real bad no matter how conditioned your shins are. You're not going to break the concrete with your shin. But little kids don't know that. So a little kid might run up and kick it as hard as he can and break his damn leg because she's an idiot and she's trying to convince people that it's real.
Yeah, well, I cannot add anything else about what you just said. Yeah, I agree. I would like to try something new. I will tell you a name of a very known world martial artist, and I want you to tell me with a yes or a no if you believe if this guy is like for real or is just a fraud. If you want to say anything else about, like, if you just need to say yeah, but it's okay.
Okay,
That's fine. But okay. Frank Dux.
Frank Dux, no. And I'll say the reason I will say no is I don't think that he didn't have the best of intentions, but I think that Frank Dux loves Frank Dux. And some of the stories that he tells are ridiculous and not factual whatsoever. And so I don't think so at all.
Steven Seagal.
Somewhat. So Steven Seagal, I think, started off as a fantastic martial artist, but I think that he had an ego. And once he was able to get into the film industry, I think he was probably surrounded by a lot of yes men and people that boosted his ego. And I think that he slowly but surely turned into the Steven Seagal that we see now. The guy who molests women, the guy who's violent to actors, the guy who isn't really liked by a lot of people. And the guy who has a little bit of an eating problem right now. He's very, very, very large right now. And so I don't think that he started off that way. I think that it was something that a lot of people around him helped mold. I think that Steven Seagal would be looked at much different if he had people in his camp who told him no from time to time. Like, yo, that's not a good idea. Don't do that. But he didn't. And so, like, unfortunately, his ego was made to grow, and this is what you get instead. So, no. I think started off as a good martial artist, and I think that he slowly turned into something different.
Rickson Gracie.
Rickson Gracie.
Rickson, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yes. yes. I will say just yes. That's all you need to know.
Okay. Deca Joe. DK Joe.
DKU. Oh, okay. So
I don't know how to
pronounce
it. Sorry.
Does this thing. This was a tough one, and I did a video about DKU. I think DKU also was one of those guys is at the beginning stages of allowing his ego to get the better of him. He's got a system in which he claims to have several different black belts, but he doesn't provide any lineage whatsoever. So when you look up his credentials, really the only thing that he's kind of graded or ranked in truly is like Systema. And I mean, I'm sure that he's dabbled in other things, but there's no proof of any of the other things that he claims. So when I look at somebody that young that has a resume in which he keeps claiming to have like over 10 black belts or something like that, maybe 15, it makes it very difficult to believe that. Because I mean, shit, I've been in the martial arts for 23 years of my life. I have 2 black belts, right? And I'm a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, and that's going to take me another several years to get my black belt in because I suck, right? And so when I look at like somebody like that, I mean, I've seen his videos. He's just regurgitating Systema. So do I think that he's a martial artist? Yeah, he's got some potential and he's got some skill, but at the same time, he does this thing where he's calling out UFC fighters and he wants to fight in the UFC. And when I wrote him, I was like, hey, I know UFC fighters. I'm sure I can arrange a sparring match. And he was like, no, I want to fight in the UFC. And I was like, okay, well, you do understand that you don't just go fight in the UFC. You have to have amateur fights and work your way up. And he didn't want to hear any of that. So it kind of made me believe that this guy doesn't really understand how combat sports work based off our conversation. So I'm a little iffy about him, to be honest. It's a little bit like in the middle. I think that he has some skill, but again, I think he's allowing his ego to kind of overinflate and put him in a bad position where he just looks egotistical.
Well, yeah, to me, he seems to be doing some tricks sometimes. I mean, yeah, I can see that he knows some stuff, but at the same time, some of the things that he does seems like tricks more than techniques. But
yeah, well, and another thing you can kind of spot when it comes to like people who are boosting themselves above like their actual skill level is when you watch, let's say, a professional boxer or anybody in professional combat sports. When you see them spar, the other person can hit them back, right? It's quite obvious. When you see like DKU spar, right? You don't really see him like moving around too much with people who are hitting him back. You see him moving around with people like sometimes he's got different gloves on than they do, which is like a big red flag. Or sometimes they'll just be wearing motorcycle helmets and they'll just be punching the helmet. Like basically what he did was he just made these people look like punching bags. Like I haven't really seen him either. Like another example for DKU is DKU was talking with an MMA fighter behind somewhere. I don't remember where it was, but it's online. You can find it. And as he was talking to the guy was very polite and respectful. He said, hey, can you show me some stuff? And DKU moved around and showed him some stuff. Then after that, the guy was like, hey, well, do you mind if we work a little bit of wrestling now? And DKU was like, no, and just left. And so like, that's an ego thing. He doesn't want to look like he was showing up. And, I think that that's a little bit of a Bruce Lee mentality to talk to philosophy, but never show. It kind of leaves a little mysticism in there. But a main difference was Bruce Lee was an actor. Bruce Lee was not a prize fighter. He never claimed to be a prize fighter, and he never called out prize fighters. He was never like, I want to fight all these dudes, right? Never did that. DKU, on the other hand, did the opposite. He's claiming to teach people self-defense. He's not an actor. That's not his primary job. His primary job is to teach people how to defend themselves, but he doesn't have actually any credentials to back that up. And so that's very strange. He just kind of comes off as this really charismatic Bruce Lee-like figure, but I just don't understand why he wouldn't just stay in that lane. You know, it's just like, that's what you're going to do. Don't go calling out UFC fighters, because what's going to happen is one of them will answer you, and then you're going to look like a goddamn fool because you don't know what you're doing and you've never been in a ring before in your life. I think that that's kind of important. Okay, well,
just 3 more questions, and that would be it, because I know that you're very busy, and I'm sorry to take you so long.
No, no, it's all good. I enjoy talking shop.
Okay, thank you, man. First of all, you already talked about Bruce Lee, and you're, well, if I understand correctly, for you, he's just an actor. So the thing that he's
not just an actor, but his primary job was an actor. His job was to be an actor and a philosopher, but he was a martial artist. He was a legitimate martial artist. He just was not a prize fighter. For instance, another example of that we talked about earlier, Scott Adkins, Michael Jai White, Caitlin Deschelle, Matt Emmett, Daniel Sterling. All these people are stunt performers. That doesn't mean they're not martial artists. They're just not prize fighters.
Right. Okay. So the thing is that so many people like Joe Louis, Bob Wall, Bill Wallace, Bill Wallace, so many people that trained with him, Chuck Norris, they did say that he was a true fighter. So what would you say to them? Like, if I would be like, I don't know, Danilo Santo, what would you say to me?
Oh, I mean, I'm sure he was a great fighter. There's a difference between being a good fighter and being a prize fighter. So like, you could be in the gym and beat up everybody in your gym, but you didn't get paid to do that. You just did it. Or you can be a Muhammad Ali, who was relevant at the time, right? One of the best boxers in the world. That's a prize fighter. He gets paid literally to do nothing but fight. Bruce Lee never got paid a dime to fight people. He got paid to teach people. There's a huge difference. And so I think that like when we're looking at somebody like a Bruce Lee, a lot of people will like want to make Bruce Lee this like unstoppable force because that's how he presented himself. But the truth is that if Bruce Lee got into the ring with somebody like Muhammad Ali, under boxing rules, he would simply lose. And it's not because he was a bad fighter. He could be a fantastic fighter. It's because that was not his primary job. You know, the winner will probably go to the guy who does it every day. For instance, right? Have you ever cut somebody's hair?
No, I haven't.
No, I didn't think you had, right? So you probably never cut somebody's hair, right? So if I said, all right, we're going to have a contest. It's going to be you versus a professional barber, right? And you both are going to cut somebody's hair. Who do you think is going to be better at it?
The other guy.
The guy who does it every day for a living, right? And so it's the same with most everything else. Bruce Lee was a fantastic martial artist. I'm sure he was a great fighter. He just was not a prize fighter. He was not somebody whose primary job, like a GSP or an Anderson Silva, their jobs were to fight people, right? His job was to teach people. I'm not saying that he's not a martial artist. He's a fantastic martial artist and he's very inspiring. And if it wasn't for him, most people wouldn't have started martial arts because he's that inspiring. But at the same time, like, we're talking about a guy who was teaching people versus a guy who was fighting people for money. There's a big difference.
I agree with you completely. As a matter of fact, I did a video about this topic maybe 3 years ago, but all the Bruce Lee lovers went straight to my throat, you know? But yeah, I agree with you, man. And about Rickson Gracie, I don't know if you have heard about the stories like Bill Wallace. I interviewed him like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he was telling us about some shady things on the first UFC with the Gracies inviting all these other strikers and all. And also, Rickson Gracie is supposed to have like, I don't know how many hundreds of fights, and he never lost. So what can you tell me about them? Like, do you believe like they were as good as they were, or they did some shady things to make them look good?
I mean, I think it's just like anything else. I mean, like, I don't see people as black and white. I think people are beautiful shades of gray. So like, if anybody thinks that everybody, that somebody is 100% perfect all the time, I will show you a fucking liar. Like, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has vices. So do I think that they've done great things in the martial arts? For sure. Do I think they made mistakes? Sure. Right. But do I think that their goal was always their goal? Absolutely. The goal was to elevate jujitsu and to put it in the spotlight and to show people, show the world their art. And I gotta say, sometimes you gotta do some shit that isn't not necessarily clean, right? Sometimes you gotta get your hands dirty and do some shit that people might look down upon. But at the end of the day, they did get their goal met. They did spread jiu-jitsu to the world. And so now Brazilian jiu-jitsu is more popular now than it really ever has been. And you have guys who are inside of jiu-jitsu making it even better than it was before, like Eddie Bravo, for instance, working on primarily no-gi and starting different jiu-jitsu tournaments. Now you have guys who are able to get paid for a living to do jiu-jitsu, which is also very incredible. So I would think that at the end of the day, if somebody did some bad shit that made a lot of good things happen, then we did the bad shit, a whole bunch of good shit happens, you weigh it. You know, are you going to be mad at them for the bad shit that they did? Or are you going to be happy about all the good results? That's just an ethics question, man. I think that's up to the individual to make their own decisions.
Okay, yeah, that was a perfect answer to me. And about, do you think that you can fight using, like, you can be a UFC fighter or maybe a street fighter at least, like using Sistema, Aikido, or Capoeira?
Well, so let's start with Capoeira, because I've seen people use certain Capoeira techniques. For instance, Senshai uses some Capoeira stuff when he spars people, which is really funny. He does like a, what is it called? I forget what it's called. It's a very specific kick where he'll hop up on one hand and kick with his leg. He does that to a lot of people, like in every seminar that he does. That's a Capoeira technique. That's like Capoeira all day. I've seen guys do things like very specific body movements for spinning hook kicks. That's Capoeira. I've seen very low movement and wide stepping. That's Capoeira. So I see that as probably being one of the more effective out of the three. I have seen little to no Aikido. You do see Aikido a little bit more now because of the wrist locks. You see that a lot more now in jiu-jitsu, because jiu-jitsu guys for the longest time were all about leg locks. And so they focused on leg locks, and that was a very popular trend. And then now you see guys working on trying to pull off wrist locks. Well, 90% of the wrist locks they're trying to pull off are from Aikido any damn way. So are you going to see that in MMA? No, right? Why? Because it's really, really, really hard to pull off a wrist lock in MMA. They wrap their hands, so that means their wrists are a little tighter than normal, right? They have big, bulky gloves on, so it's harder to get a grip on those kind of things. So, and you can't put your finger in the glove, which is an accident, so you don't want to make those mistakes and get a point taken away. So, and then finally, Sistema, no, Jesus. I have the hardest time with Sistema mostly because of the people at the top. Like when you see a Mikhail, for instance, and he's doing things where he's laying on his back and somebody touches his belly and he flexes his belly and the guy flies across the room 10 feet, right? That's bullshit. That's utter bullshit. That does nothing for anyone but the guy laying on his back. It helps his ego. Or you see him do things like he'll grab the person's finger like this, literally just like this, and their whole body freezes. And then he lets go and they can move again. Bullshit. Bullshit. That's not true. And it's amazing to me how many people, when I post up different Sistema instructors, will be like, that's not real Sistema. Well, what the hell is? I posted up every damn head of these different organizations, and every time I post up a different figurehead, somebody always goes, oh, that's not real because it's not from Mikhail. Like, well, Mikhail is full of crap too. He's lying to you. It's a joke. And the funny thing is, to me, is that that's how cults work. A cult works when the leader can do no wrong. Like, we all make mistakes. Like we were talking about Hickson a second ago. We've all done things that we probably will regret or probably didn't go the way that we really wanted them to go, even with the best of intentions. But you have to admit your mistake. You know, be like, hey, that was my bad. I made that mistake and I apologize. Let's move on from here with that lesson being learned. People who don't make mistakes don't learn anything. And people who don't learn anything damn sure don't have the right to teach anyone anything. And so when I look at somebody like a Mikhail, who his subordinates think he can do no wrong, I think to myself, what type of instructor is this if he doesn't make any mistakes? How could he have learned anything if everything that he does is absolutely perfect to the people underneath him? That's called brainwashing. That's a cult.
Yeah, I agree with you. The thing is that thought the same thing as you about Sistema until I had a good friend from the Bando Association, the American Bando Association, called Ethan Minor. He is a very good Muay Thai fighter, Lead Weight fighter, Bando boxing fighter. Like he did all these other martial arts, and he was so good at them. And now, right now, he's doing Sistema with Martin Wheeler there in Beverly Hills. Yeah. And I was like, I interviewed him, and he was like, "Hey man, really, this is something else." And I was so impressed because he is a true fighter. I mean, he did boxing, he did kickboxing, he did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and now he's doing Sistema. So for me, it was like, wow, there must be something with, that I don't understand.
Well, I can tell you exactly what it is you don't understand. Like when it comes to that anyway. So, all right, let me, maybe I can give you an example or a couple examples, right? So at the grocery store, when you go to the grocery store, right? You typically, you have the outside of the grocery store, which is usually like where your bakery is and where your frozen food is and all that stuff, right? It's kind of on the edges. And then in the middle, you have all the canned goods in the aisles and things like that, right? Your non-perishables. And then once you go to the checkout, there's always candy and things like that at the checkout, right? When you buy that candy bar, whose idea was that?
Whose idea was?
Yeah, so like you're grocery shopping, you go to checkout and you look up and you see a candy bar right there at the checkout aisle. Whose idea was that to buy that candy bar?
Well, I suppose that somebody thought that they should put those candy there so I could see them and buy them.
Yes, exactly. So it wasn't your idea.
No.
If those weren't there, if you really wanted that candy bar, right, you could have gotten it in the aisles. They would have had it in the aisles, but they put more right there. And then when you pick that up, you go, huh? And then you grab it and you check it out, right? And in most people's heads, most people go, oh, that was my idea. No, it wasn't. Somebody marketed that, understood that you'd be hungry from being around food all the damn time while you're shopping, and then knew that when you go to check out, this is an easy little grab and you can put down and they can make a few extra dollars every time. And so that was someone else's idea. They planted the seed in your head. And so by the time you make the decision, you go, this is my decision. I'm so happy with this candy bar that I bought, because that makes it sound like you're in control. Other than going, man, I can't believe I bought that damn candy bar. They made me buy this damn thing. They manipulated me. But most people don't want to admit that they've been manipulated. And so just because you have a pedigree, right? Boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, that doesn't mean that you can't be manipulated, right? So I'll give you another quick example, right? So let's say you're going to be a new student for me and you're going to walk into my martial arts studio, all right? So we'll play a little game and we'll just see how it goes, okay? So you're going to be a brand new student. You've never taken martial arts a day in your life, right? And you walk into my studio. We've already called, made the appointment, and you're walking in, all right? So you walk in the door. Hey, how's it going, man? My name's Rob.
Hey, how are you?
Wonderful. What was your name?
Ivan.
Ivan. All right, cool. Nice to meet you. All right, and what brings you in today? Why do you want to do martial arts?
Well, I want to know how to defend myself, how to defend my girlfriend, and I want to know how much does it cost to train with you.
Okay, that's cool. Well, are you coming from home or work?
From work.
Okay, work. So you work around here. That's cool. And then, so you said your girlfriend. So you want to learn self-defense. Does she support you in your decision?
Yeah, she does.
Awesome. All right, cool. And so, and you said you wanted to do this to learn self-defense. How long have you been thinking about doing this?
Like a couple of years.
Oh, wow. Years. That's awesome. So you're finally pulling the trigger, making it happen. That's cool. All right. So I have my schedule here. So let's say hypothetically that you really enjoy class. You have a good time on the mat, right? We have classes Monday through Friday at this exact same time. What days will work out best for you if you enjoy class?
I would say Tuesday and Thursdays.
All right, Tuesdays and Thursdays, that's perfect. Most people train about 2 to 3 times a week anyway, so that'll work out really, really well. So, all right, so guess what? I already sold you on my program. You haven't even taken your class yet. Do you want to know how?
Yeah, how?
All right, cool. So there's something called the 5 objections, right? This is sales tactics and brainwashing 101. So rather than me trying to sell you a product, I just have to get around your objections to buying the product or service. So the 5 objections for gyms specifically are, I don't have the money, I don't have the time, it's too far away, I have to think about it, I need to talk to my spouse. Statistically, those are the 5 things that people will tell you other than the word no. Most people don't like confrontation, especially in a gym where they're going to be learning about confrontations, so they feel intimidated, so they don't say the word no. But what they will tell you is, it's too far away. Well, guess what? You can't tell me that anymore. Do you know why?
Because I already told you.
You work right around the corner, man. All right, and cool.
Yeah.
You can't tell me you need to think about it. Why can't you tell me you need to think about it?
Because I have think about it for many years.
You've been thinking about it for years. So there's nothing else to think about. And you can't tell me you need to ask your spouse. Do you know why?
Because I already asked her.
You already told me she has your support, right? Or you have her support. And then the last one, you can't tell me you don't have the time. Do you know why?
Because I already told you Tuesday and Thursday, right?
Thursdays, right? That's it. So I'm only missing one thing, which is the money. And the only thing you need to do in terms of the money is when it comes down time to pay, I just need to understand that I'm going to make you a better deal today or this week than you will get ever for this. And it's got to be a drastic amount. So for instance, if I say, hey, we usually have a $150 registration fee, but today I'm going to waive that. You won't have to worry about that. And normally you're going to have to pay for a uniform, which is going to cost you an extra $100, but we're going to waive that and give you a free uniform as well today. Plus, since I don't do free trials, I usually do paid trials, but I say, hey, you paid already for 3 classes. I'll tell you what, I'll take that money and I'll give it back to you and we'll discount that off this month. How does that sound? And then now you went from having to pay like an astronomical amount to just your first month's payment. And even that was lesser than it normally would be. Technically it's not, but you don't know that. Then what's going to happen is you're more likely to sign up. That's just basic manipulation. That's basic. That's day one sales, right? And so when I look at people who are doing things like going to a new art like a Sistema, I look at people who are top level con men who can sell a product or a service, even if it's bullshit. And when I look at somebody like a Wheeler or I look at somebody like a McHale, I look at them as top level con men who are able to sell subpar martial arts because they're really good salespeople. They're fantastic at sales. They can make anything sound good. Like I just got done watching an entire like hour-long seminar of the dude teaching people how to punch people in the middle of their back.
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
anybody who's
Yeah.
ever been in combat is going to go, okay, well, that's bullshit. But he's such a good salesman and he's so good at selling it and he's so good at hyping people up and making them excited that if he was teaching something legitimate, he'd be a fantastic instructor. Too bad that he's not,
Okay. Yeah. Well, I have talked to that guy maybe one or twice in my life and only like 2 or 3 words. So I don't know. I cannot say anything back to you. Everything that you're saying makes sense. So, well, what can I say? He's also training with Danny Dos Santos, but Danny Dos Santos trains anything and everything. So
yeah, Danny Dos Santos will literally train with a homeless person in an outhouse. Danny Dos Santos is a legend. Like that dude, he's one of those dudes I want to find out for myself. And even if it was horrible, he would never say so. Like that's just not how he operates. But that's what makes him unique. That's what makes him him. And so when I look at like somebody like, for instance, even if you're looking at Beverly Hills, that studio in Beverly Hills, right? You're looking at, who is the Machado that owns that?
Oh yeah, I don't remember. Yeah. I know that they are doing. There is a Machado there, but I don't know which one of them is. I don't know. I'm not sure which one is him.
Like he does this interesting stuff because like he's good martial artist, but like again, his goal doesn't seem to be wanting to do martial arts. Like when you look at like the other Machados, right? Like I think it might be Hegan maybe, but when you look at the other Machados, they're putting a lot of emphasis on the martial art. They're putting a lot of emphasis on, okay, my students are going to this tournament. We're going to get ready for this. They're doing everything involved in the martial arts. When you look at his stuff is all about Hollywood. He really wants to be in movies. He really wants to be seen. He really wants to do choreography. He wants to do that kind of stuff. And he does do very well with that, right? He has a lot of people there who are actors, who are like getting their purple belts and their brown belts, and they don't really even spar because of the type of program that he has set up for them. And I understand why he does that the way that he does it is because they're actors. And if the actors get hurt, a lot of people get put out of a job. So you need your actor to be safe. So I respected that part of things. But when I look at like him bringing in Wheeler for the Sistema stuff, right? And then I see them doing knife drills where the guy is just taking a knife and poking the guy in the side and the guy's spinning in a circle. Like, that's bullshit, right? That's not conducive to learning absolutely anything in terms of self-defense, knife defense. Hell, it's not even really helping you much with your balance, right? But what really bothers me the most with Sistema is they talk in circles a lot. So like when you ask one Sistema instructor and you say, hey, what technique are we going to do? They go, we don't do techniques, we do ideas. You're like, what? All right, well, like, can you give me an idea? No, that's up for you to learn. Like, why are you talking in fucking circles? Can you give me some information that I'm fucking paying you for? And then they just continue to talk in circles. I did a really interesting interview, by the way, with somebody who was a Sistema instructor. And we had like an hour-long debate about Sistema and about like the positives and the negatives of it. And it was really fun. But like, even then, it was just talking in circles. It's like, if I were to go into a boxing gym and I go to an instructor or coach and I say, hey, can you show me something? Now, he will show you something, but it'll be something basic. He'll be like, all right, here's a jab, here's a cross, here's a hook, here's a slip, here's a bob and weave. He'll show you something. If I walk into a karate studio, here's a front kick, right? Here's a side kick. Yep. Walk into a taekwondo studio, here's a high round kick, here's how to stretch better. Walk into a wrestling, right? Here's how double leg takedown. Walk into a Sistema place and I go, hey, can you teach me something? You go, oh, you must discover. Well, we cannot teach, you can only learn. Like, what the fuck? Are you like a old school, like 1800s monk? Like, we're not in China, dude. You can tell me like a technique. And like, what was even crazier is when I find out that there's no real curriculum to a lot of places. Not all places, but a lot of places, they're just like very free flowy. Like, we're just going to do this today and work on your body movement. It's like, okay, well, like, what happens if they grab me and like choke me to death? Oh, well, they won't do that if you do this. Like, there is no, they won't do that. You don't get that choice, right? Sometimes people just do shit to you, you know, and like, you have to be able to defend yourself against things. How do I make this work? How do I make it not work? Can you show me a technique to defend against a rear naked choke? No, you can't. All right, then what are we doing here? The answer isn't punch the guy either. You know,
right.
Just
yeah.
I find the whole thing ridiculous and culty.
Okay. Well, I believe that you may think something similar about regarding the MMA, about Wing Chun or Jeet Kune Do.
So Jeet Kune Do is like a hodgepodge of technique, and Wing Chun actually is a part of Jeet Kune Do. So when I look at Wing Chun, for instance, I look at a lot of things that are very similar to a lot of other martial arts. So like Lap Sao, Pak Sao, Jut Sao, Tong Sao, Bong Sao. I'm going through the list, right? Chi Sao is the drill, right? Gum Sao, Jut Sao. Oh man, my Wing Chun is coming back to me. All of those things are in every other martial art. Centerline theory is in every other martial art. Lap Sao just means pulling hand. We're going to do that like in most martial arts, you're going to pull someone's hand eventually. Pak Sao is pushing or slapping hand. So like, all right, well, I'm going to do that in most every other martial art too, right? So I don't really see Wing Chun as like an end-all be-all martial art. Of course not. But I do see a lot of very useful things in Wing Chun. And I see a lot of like techniques that cross over into other martial arts. The only difference is Wing Chun is in a very specific range that is really hard to stay in a real fight, which operates a lot in a trapping range. So you're like doing things like doing reference point drills where, if we meet here and I Pak Sao, and then all of a sudden you trap, you block that, then I lop, and now I have your arms trapped for a moment, right? And that's handy, but it's very difficult to do in a real fight because once you're in that range, most of the time people try to grab you. And so that makes it a little harder to pull off some of that, but it's not impossible. Also, vertical fist punching is very handy from Wing Chun because when you're in close, punching like this is very dumb. So vertical fist punching becomes a lot more effective unless you're doing things like uppercuts. But then when you look at JKD is kind of like rooted a lot in Wing Chun. So you do a lot of reference point stuff. The only difference is it's a little bit more dynamic and free flowing. So like rather than us being in this traditional Wing Chun stance where we're standing like this, it's a little bit more relaxed, but the concepts are all still there. We're going to meet at very specific reference points for our hands. You know, we're going to still work on Lop and Pak, but our goal is to bypass the trapping range to get to a clenching range to headbutt and elbow. So like if you look at guys like Dan Inosanto or Paul Vunak, when they're teaching JKD, they're usually trying to progress through the ranges of combat. You know, they'll go low line kicking, usually like pendulum kicks and things like that, leg checks, and then they'll come in to enter. They'll do things like back fists for entering. When you give them obstruction, like a block or a parry, or you raise your arm and put it in the way, then you go right to the Wing Chun stuff. Then after that, you go to the clinch range, and then they have a little bit of grappling stuff in there, but a lot of it's more advantageous to stay standing. So like there's benefits to those, just like any other martial art. There's some good and there's some bad. Some martial arts is a lot more bad than there is good, but there's always something good, you know?
What do you think about the Dog Brothers with Mark Danny?
I love the Dog Brother stuff. Love the Dog Brother stuff. Like when you look at the Dog Brother stuff, like when I watch The Gathering, anybody who doesn't know, The Gathering is when the Dog Brothers get together about once a year, and then they allow anybody to come in with blunt objects. You can fight with chains, you can fight with sticks, you can fight with nunchucks, you can fight with whatever you want as long as it's blunt. You wear like a modified fencing helmet with hockey gloves, and you go full contact MMA, but with weapons. And I think that that's about as realistic as you can get with weapons training without, I guess you could say, high level of damage to yourself. Like they still get hurt because it's a fight, but at the same time, it's a lot safer than it would seem. But
yeah, my best friend, I'm sorry, my best friend here in Mexico, he is the representative of the Dog Brothers. So
yeah, Dog Brothers are awesome.
He have gone to the gathering many times, but I wanted to know about, I agree with you with everything you said about them, but I don't know if you have heard that Mark Denny is also training with Martin Wheeler. Sistema.
Weird.
Okay.
Weird. Again, like from everything that I've seen, it's a cult. And I think that they are very, very good at selling a cult.
Okay. And what about this other system that I don't know? It is more like most of the martial arts is like a self-defense. I don't know if I would say cult, but it's kind of like that. They do a lot of knife. I don't remember the name of them right now. Their logo is like a skeleton. Ed Calderon did something with them. Knife. They do a lot of knife. I forgot the name of that organization. They do a lot of knives and how to escape from somebody. They take you in the car, and if they take some rope. You haven't heard about that?
I'm not exactly sure what that is. You know, there's a lot of places that do scenario-based training, so I'm not really sure.
Okay, well, maybe I will email you that name.
Yeah, man, just send it to me, dude. Like I answer my stuff, so.
Okay, man. Well, it was great talking to you. To be honest, it was so not only interesting but also very relaxing because you have so many ideas that confirm what I was thinking about other stuff. So thank you so much. And can you tell us on YouTube there must be some things that we should not see or watch. Can you tell us any of those channels so people can be aware?
See, I'm not gonna lie, I don't like doing that. Mostly because, again, I want people to make their own decisions when it comes to their training. Like if, for instance, there are people out there who like Sistema. Obviously, I don't like it, but there are people who like it. And I think that if it benefits them and it's not hurting them in any way, I say go for it. I think that they're going to be in for a rude awakening when it comes time to really defend themselves. But, you know, everybody that you mentioned that's doing Sistema, those are already people who have already trained in other martial arts. I feel bad for the people who've never trained in any other martial art because they have nothing to fall back on if it doesn't work. And so that bothers me. But I think that if it's benefiting you, you're seeing some value in it, then do it. I mean, there are so many frauds out there, like, for instance, like Evan Pantazzi, for instance. Evan Pantazzi is a guy who's directly under George Dillman. He was directly under George Dillman. Now he has his own version of what Dillman does. And like, he thinks that pressure points are the cure-all for everything. He thinks pressure points can cure like your erectile dysfunction, and pressure points can cure your low sex drive, and pressure points can cure, a fight. And like, he can make a sound and it'll make you fall over. Like, all that shit is utterly ridiculous nonsense and will get you killed if you really try. And I even reached out to him several times, by the way, and I let him know, like, look, I don't want to challenge you. I don't want to fight you, But what I want to do is just show up and film and record. And I want you to do these techniques on me. I won't fight you. I won't hit you. I won't punch you or kick you. I'll just stand there and let you do them to me. And I want to see if they would work. And every time we get to that point, he always ignores the rest of the conversation. We'll talk. If it's an argument, he'll love to argue with you if he thinks that you're trolling him. But when he realizes you're serious, he shuts it off because he knows he's a con man, you know? So that might be one of the only ones that I would say be leery of. But again, hey man, maybe you want to be a part of that weird culty bullshit, then go for it, you know? That's if it makes you happy.
Oh, I remember the name of this organization that does some self-defense and even weapons. It's called Libre Fighting.
Okay. I don't know anything about them, so.
Okay, well, I will send you some information about them. They seem to be very legit, but I don't know. You're the expert, so I will show you everything.
Again, I'm just stating my opinion. You know, like the funny thing about martial arts is there are so many different martial arts, right? It would be literally impossible for you to learn every martial art in your lifetime. And so every martial art kind of boils down to some really basic things. 5 ranges of combat. No matter what, every martial art will fall into one of the 5 ranges of combat. Once you get done with the 5 ranges of combat, then you're dealing with specialists who think differently about those ranges and how to handle those ranges. You know, so like when I look at, for instance, like a Kyoshu Jitsu, because we were talking about them, right? Their answer for everything is like a pressure point, right? A meridian line or some magic ancient Chinese secret, right? Then you look at somebody who does Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and never does a pressure point a day in their life. Then when you take those 2 people and put them on the ground, Kyoshu Jitsu guy is like, well, I'll just take these 2 knuckles and I'll jam them in your lung 5 and your spleen 6, and then you'll just jump off me. And then they do it to a jiu-jitsu guy or even somebody who's just done some high school wrestling and they just sit on mount and look at them like they're dumb. Then you look at a jiu-jitsu guy, you're like, all right, well, this guy's mounted you, what do you do? And he does things that are legitimately real and work, like bridge, ebi, you know, like let's try to trap the arm and roll. There's so many different other ways to get out of like being mounted. And then you go, oh, well, all of those work and none of what you just said works. That means that you're not effective in this range of combat. You know, they're effective in this range of combat because they have an answer to the question. But Kyoshu Jitsu, every answer that they have is always a pressure point, which makes them not effective in any range of combat because that bullshit just doesn't work. You know, if I just tap here and I hit here and I hit here at the same time, and then all of a sudden all these electrical signals are going to go into your brain and short circuit you, like, okay, well, how come the highest level fighters that we have in the world don't do that? None of them. Why? Well, it's because what you're teaching is bullshit, doesn't fucking work, you know, like, or you think that it works, that it's so deadly it won't work, you know, it's too dangerous to do in sparring, right? Then how come you keep demonstrating this on 12-year-olds and knocking them out over and over and over again if it's so dangerous, you know? Like, yeah. I don't understand the logic. And that's like that cult mentality that bothers me to no end, you know?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I wish you the best on what you're doing, man. I will follow you like really close. And what is next for you and McDojoLife? What is the next step?
January, we should be filming our documentary. We should have already filmed it, but COVID lockdowns have been brutal. So when we were originally going to film in April, the first COVID lockdown happened in March. So we were like, oh, well, damn it. So with no martial arts gyms being open in California, it makes it really difficult to film a movie about martial arts in California. And then like the next one, we were like, all right, well, let's put a date longer and then hopefully lockdowns will be done. And they did, they eased up. And we set the date for August. Unfortunately, a week before August, California went into their second lockdowns. So we're like, damn it. And so now we're so close to the holidays that I didn't want to film during the holidays, but lockdowns are still going on anyway. So we're looking at January now. So no matter what, I don't really have a choice. I have to start filming something in January because it's been, at that point would be a year. And I just cannot, or almost a year, because we were supposed to film in April. But like, that's too long of a wait. I'm not really a fan of like making people wait for stuff like that. So I'll have to do as much as I can with what I can. You know, I just don't have a choice, which sucks, but it is what it is.
Right. Okay. Well, I wish you the best. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a great documentary. And man, I hope this is not the last time I talk to you. I hope we can chat later on. And maybe about if I found something weird or something interesting, I will send it to you.
My way, dude. I'm all about that kind of stuff. So I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Rob. And well, have a great day. And again, thank you so much.
Have a great day, dude. Thank you.
Thank you.